And now, as we finish up this section talking about decreasing conflict between people, one of the ways that they've decided that they might be able to decrease conflict between groups, whether that's because of racism, prejudice, discrimination, scapegoat theory, but one of the reasons that, or one of the methods by which they thought they could decrease conflict is something called the contact theory. And what this does, this allows members of a group in conflict to recognize what they have in common. And it provides an opportunity for them to work together and build relationships. An easy example of this is Remember the Titans. And for some reason, some of you nerds have not seen Remember the Titans. And over the next several weeks, you're not really going to have much to do, so you need to watch it. But what they've done is it's a movie, it's a Disney movie, a football movie, about a school that was torn by racism. And then all of a sudden, they have African Americans and whites that are able to get together and go to school together. This was post Brown versus Topeka Board of Education. And the football coach is trying to get them to work together. And they didn't like each other, whites and blacks, lots of conflicts. And what they did is he put them together and said, you guys have to figure out stuff that you have in common. And by doing so, they were able to actually work together. And as you see on your notes there, it says this works best by using subordinate goals, meaning like sub-goals, and then making them work together to ensure long-term success. And the movie is a great movie. Denzel Washington's wonderful in it. It is definitely a good movie, and it shows a little bit about the idea of the contact theory. And again, if you can have groups that don't like each other, but can figure out that they actually have stuff in common, it allows them to actually maybe get over some of the prejudices and the discriminations that they have against each other, and hopefully be able to solve some of those problems long term. And so anyway, like I said, if you get a chance, watch Remember the Titans. That's the idea. The Jigsaw classroom is they break that classroom up into a number of diverse groups. So again, picture our psychology class where you'd have maybe people that don't particularly get along. What you would do is you'd actually have them be able to work together. And I would give you guys different things that you guys would work on. If we were to do an experiment, maybe I would have two people that don't really like each other. You guys have to come up with the rules for the experiment. And then two other people that don't really get along, you guys have to figure out where you're going to test people. And then two other people that don't get along, you guys have to figure out how you're going to bring the results together. And then, everybody's given a job. And just picture it like a classroom or like a jigsaw, which is a huge puzzle. And if everybody does a little bit of the puzzle and does it correctly, it will look really, really nice. And that's the idea behind a jigsaw classroom. Now, aggression and antisocial behavior. Aggression is any action, verbal or physical, meant to hurt other people. And when you're talking about being aggressive, again, we usually think of aggression as being like physical altercation. It doesn't have to be that. Aggression literally can be just verbal aggression, like verbally tearing someone down. But the whole idea behind aggression is meant to hurt people. Now, they do have something called instrumental aggression, which is the goal is not harm, but to achieve a goal or protect oneself. And so this is like again, you're not purposely going out there to hurt anybody, but what you're trying to do is protect yourself or to achieve a goal. So, for example, when you think about like in football, you have to tackle someone. Now, perhaps I've never played football, but again, the coach would probably say you want to hurt the person. But again, the goal is to actually achieve. You're trying to achieve a goal, not trying to just hurt the person. But there's a goal involved in that type of aggression. Maybe you think about race car driving. You have to be a little bit aggressive when you're driving a race car. In order to win, you have to be a little bit aggressive. Hostile aggression, this is more of what we think of. This is intended to cause damage to a victim. And is usually the result of anger or frustration. And so your antisocial behavior would deal with hostile aggression because you're trying to cause damage to the victim and make them hurt. The frustration aggression hypothesis is this. Frustration or stress results from being blocked from reaching a goal, and it produces aggression. If you cannot get your goal done and people are standing in your way, that will cause you to become frustrated, and then eventually you will become aggressive to the point where you will hurt somebody in order to get it done. Think about people with road rage. A lot of times, if people are in your way, they're going too slow, you can't get to your destination on time, then you start tailgating them. You start getting frustrated. And then maybe it gets to the point where you get aggressive and you bump their car. Maybe you drive by them and tell them they're number one with your middle finger. You yell obscenities at them. You swerve towards them. You hear these cases of road rage all the time, and it truly is the frustration aggression hypothesis. That frustration leads to aggressive behavior. Aversive conditions. What this is, the things that cause distress or pain. That's anything that is aversive. We've talked about this with that baby Albert, if you remember correctly. The slippers themselves, or that rat, wasn't actually causing pain. It was that sound, but they associated that with that. But aversive conditions, anything that causes distress or pain. Could be crowds, could be just any pain. It could be an odor. It could be a high temperature that can lead to aggression. That would be something that is aversive, something that is uncomfortable. Maybe it's a rock or a pebble in your shoe. That is aversive, and it can make you irritated. Maybe it's your windows not going down in the summer and your AC doesn't work. Those things can also lead to aggression. Albert Bandura talked about aggressive tendencies in children are learned through modeling and imitation, meaning if a kid sees a parent yelling at another parent, if the kid sees the parent acting in a violent or physical way, the kid will mimic that behavior. And the example that I have there is that Bobo doll. Perhaps you remember reading about this earlier in the year. It's basically like that big inflatable clown. And what they did is they put that thing out, and the kid didn't really mess with it. But then there was a parent that was pushing it or shoving it or just trying to joke around and punching it. And then kids started imitating it, and they all followed through with punching the Bobo doll and being aggressive with that. As far as culture goes, the ethnic identity, part of a person's identity that is defined by an ethnic heritage, language, or history. So this is basically who you are as defined by your ethnicity. So when we think about our good friend Maddie, Maddie is Italian. And when you think about Maddie's ethnic identity, what that means is that Maddie tends to like pasta. He also likes to talk to people. He likes to be social. He likes to swoop his hair. I think that's something all Italians do. But Italians tend to like to talk to people. They like to be social. And that would be part of his ethnic identity. I have in-laws that are English. They're very English. So again, they kind of keep to themselves, not super high emotionally, going with super high emotional and then low emotional, just kind of pretty even keel. Maybe you have people that that are from Germany. They're very stoic. That would be something that would be part of their ethnic identity. Acculturation, this is the process by which individuals are changed by their immersion into a new culture. So if you are learning about a new culture, this is how you're able to do that. And so if you were to go to Greece and not really know the language, you're going to have to go through a series of acculturation. You're going to have to learn how they talk there. They're going to have to learn how you interact, how close they stand to people. Are the people outgoing? Are they friendly? Do they keep to themselves? That's acculturation. It's a process by which you are changed by your immersion into a new culture. Now, you guys might be like, so am I is there acculturation with me being an American? Well, if you're an American kid, no, because you're born into that culture. But think about somebody like Blaine or Matthew So, you guys going into America, there is a culture difference. There's a acculturation that you have to learn how American kids, in American schools act. They're different. And it's not that it's wrong, it's just a process. Now, there is something called acculturative stress. This is the stress and mental health problems often found in immigrants trying to adjust to a new culture. What they're admitting here is that it can be stressful for a person to go into a new culture. And they call it literally a stress that is created by them going into this new culture. And so, Blaine, his first couple of years here might have been very stressful as he's learning the language, learning the customs. Same thing with Matthew So, and you're learning these different things. For you American kids, picture you going overseas and going to Greece and learning how to be a student in Greece. There would be a stress or a mental health problem that could happen because you're not used to the language. You're not used to how they dress. You're not used to how they act. You're not used to the foods that they eat. And so that's why they would call it acculturative stress, because it's dealing with the stress that is created by you going into a new culture. All right, that's it for 13 and 14. I do know that the AP test has been changed slightly. I'm planning on making a video and hopefully addressing some of your questions concerning that. But the bottom line is they haven't really told us a ton of new information, and we probably aren't going to get anything solidified until April the 3rd. In the meantime, I would definitely be studying your terms, chapters 1 through 14 for sure. And that way you can at least be ready, because I know it sounds like they're cutting the AP exam the last couple chapters off. I will explain this later on, but in the meantime, continue to learn your terms 1 through 14. Enjoy your afternoon.